And now, the Sons of Liberty Show on the CB Media Network.
Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
We've been fighting a long time, and we have all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. But you are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink.
Live from Central Virginia, it's Saturday night!
Now we find ourselves facing a tyranny that has been infused with new blood, and it is rapidly becoming an engorged, hard tyranny. And yes, I know you better-minded listeners picked up on that not-so-subtle metaphor. I used it on purpose because a hard tyranny serves one purpose and one purpose only, to screw its subjects. No force, no attitude, no emotion, no nation, no person can hold any modicum of power, much less utter dominion over a sovereign individual, except through the sanction that is given by that individual.
But for me, leading a worldwide depression.
In doing so, we will honor the vows of our founders, who in the Declaration of Independence said that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This legislation will lead to healthier lives, more liberty to pursue hope and dreams and happiness.
Federal government, yes, can and do most anything in this country.
Just who the hell do you think you people are?
There's your dichotomy, folks. Do you want to be treated like children, or do you want to be treated like adults with brains of your own who can make your own decisions? That's the bottom line between new progressivism, which is really old communism, or conservatism, which is what started this great nation. Which hand are you going to choose?
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Good evening, everyone. Your Iron Man of classical liberal thought, Bradley Reese, here on the Sons of Liberty show, and a first for conservative broadcast media here on Spreaker since we moved over from Blog Talk Radio. Finally able to get a guest on the show. We haven't figured out the call-in deal quite yet with Spreaker, but I pre-recorded this interview Wednesday night with musician Mark Scudder. Those of you familiar with the Sons of Liberty show know that I have interviewed authors, filmmakers, and musicians on the show before, and it's a great thrill to have Mark Scudder on the show tonight talking about his music, what he's doing to change the culture, and we've got some of his music embedded in the show tonight, so you get to listen to that as well. So a good treat for you lined up here on the Sons of Liberty show. Without further ado, let's get into it.
We are joined here on the Sons of Liberty show by Mark Scudder, I guess I can't really call you a guitarist because you're doing the whole shebang. You're like a one-man band.
Multi-instrumentalist is what they usually call other people who do that. So
there we go. Yeah, musically multi-dexterous. How about that?
Okay.
Anyway, Mark Scudder is an interesting musician because he's kind of, grassroots, I guess, which resonates with his audience. Tea Party, conservatives, etc. And you know, the interesting thing is Mark has recorded one album actually online, doing the writing and production of music over live stream, and people can sit in on the sessions and, you know, watch and interact as it's happening. So it's basically a conference call jam session kind of deal with video, and Mark is actually in the process of recording a second album in much the same manner. And the cool thing is, now I can't remember if you were doing multiple angles on the first album with the cameras, but I know you are now. And
on some of it, I had other cameras going, but not all of it. When I finally started doing vocals, which I left for last on the last record, it just, I mean, I'm not a terribly good singer, and it takes a lot of takes to get what I want, and so I just said the hell with it, and I put up just a live stream camera. But a lot of the instrument sessions, the guitar and bass and keys and stuff like that, I did do multiple cameras.
Cool. So that's and this was I was thinking about this earlier, and I didn't want. I was thinking about not bringing it up, but I'm going to anyway, just because, you know, I know kind of from watching your sessions and interacting, kind of your sense of humor. You know, this is the way that Justin Bieber started out. and you know, you're in upstate New York, which is kind of close to Canada, so anyway.
First off, there are many talented musicians in Canada. We don't want to just kick Canada in the gut here by just saying Justin Bieber. I really don't know how Justin Bieber started out. I heard that he was posting performances of his songs to YouTube, and Usher found him and then did all the production for him. So maybe it's not completely fair to say that, because what I'm literally doing is you sit down and I'm sitting in my home studio, and I'll sit down and say, okay, well, I have this idea that's like half done from whenever ago, and I kind of want to see if we can flesh it out and make it into something. And then I sit down and I start doing all the parts. So there's no Usher, there's no expensive studio in Los Angeles. There's no producer. There's not a guy in the other room making beats. It really is all sort of a one-man operation.
Yeah, so it's basically Justin Bieber in that you're putting it on the internet yourself, and mixed in with a sort of Trent Reznor 9 Inch Nails kind of thing, where you're all of the music and the vocals and the lyrics is coming out of your head. You know?
He had an incredible DIY production ethic, early on, and I look at people like Devin Townsend now, who does it all by himself a lot of the time, and in his home. But Trent Reznor really was a pioneer in that way. And besides his politics, I've always sort of counted him as an influence, though I don't think my stuff sounds anything like that. But just the fact that he got down there and he did everything and he didn't take no for an answer is inspiring from a musical standpoint.
Right. Yeah, and I've always looked at Trent Reznor the same way, that just having the wherewithal to say, well, I don't have a band to do all of the things that I want to do. I want my creativity to come out in a way that truly represents me and what I want to do with it. And you don't always have that dynamic in a band situation. So the DIY sort of effort is, it's a great way for you to get that creativity out and have it exactly how you want it. Because I know from being in bands in the past and, not going anywhere with them, but
But I know just from being in bands, the creative process is, you have an idea in your head going into the process and running it through 4 or 5 different sets of, brains and hands and instruments.
Yeah.
It always ends up coming out different on the other end. So
there's a good and a bad side to that. I mean, it can go either way. And what I was thinking when you were talking about Trent Reznor is it used to be back when he got popular in the late 80s, early 90s, people, if you have all these ideas and no way to get them out to people, people used to say to you, well, why don't you join a band? And at least they used to say that. Now they say, well, why don't you go on American Idol? And it's like people don't understand that, on American Idol, first off, they're looking for somebody thinner than me, for one thing. And they're sort of looking for a figurehead that some guy who does look like me, who works in a big building in Los Angeles, New York City, who writes teeny bopper songs, except he's 48 and divorced. Right. They need to put a face on those teeny bopper songs, and that's what they're looking for. Occasionally they'll let one of these girls write a couple of songs, but essentially it's a game show to produce some buzz around somebody that they're eventually going to give material to. And a lot of and I understand that not everybody goes around with full albums playing in their heads, or the idea that you want to go someplace different with something. So I'm always looking for people, like you, who can help explain that to people, because I know that we're sort of going into uncharted territory here with a lot of people.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing, with. There are so many people.
Something that is sort of helping to push my mood into a certain place,
Right, and that's one of the things I've talked with Jared about, is that music actually mimics human speech as well. So which is why we talked about this, that every commercial that you see on TV will have a musical score behind it.
Right.
Why? Because the music sets. It sets a mood, it sets an energy level, it can convey all of these things that maybe the spoken word can't if you don't choose the precise spoken word. So,
right. Yeah, well, like a lot of people who would listen to this last album, or whatever, or what I'm doing now, might not know, but there are some times when I have to really, when I really have to calm down and relax, and there are actually a couple of things I listen to you wouldn't even think. Like there's a guy in Los Angeles now named Chuck Wilde. He used to be in Missing Persons, the new wave band Missing Persons, but now he does this almost sort of mathematically concocted synth new agey, relaxing sort of music that just sort of flows and washes over you. It's such a slow tempo that you're not even paying attention to what's going on. It's just sort of relaxing you. And then there's a guy out of Arizona, I think, named John Seri, who does the same sort of stuff. He's done music for planetariums, and I actually listen to a lot of stuff, for the purpose of helping, to lower the energy level at the end of the day, or whatever, that you wouldn't even think of. So my tastes are, are all over the spectrum.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, we've talked about Trent Reznor and Devin Townsend, who are kind of, are a little bit more heavy as far as the music is concerned. And Trent Reznor is more, electronica, industrial. Devin Townsend is really all over the map when you explore his whole catalog. But I familiarized myself with Devin Townsend from Strapping Young Lad, which is definitely heavy. So that was my first experience with him. Actually, seen them in concert a couple of times and was just blown away. But and to hear some of the other stuff that he's done is like, is that the same guy?
Yeah, well, he put out this album called Ghost a year and a half ago, and he's got Kat Eppel on it, who was in a New Age duo when we were kids named called Emerald Webb. And I think she's American, but it was just one of these things that it was one of those weird New Agey sort of things that he listened to when he was a kid. And when he was ready to do some of that music, he called her up and he said, I want you to play on this album. And she said, sure. And I think that's such a great story to be able to, go back to somebody who one of your formative influences. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we've talked about other people and kind of the genesis of this thing, and I guess we should get into specifically your music, the album that is already out, and it's available on iTunes, by the way, or on Mark's website, and I should go ahead and give that out for the listeners as well.